And welcome back. My final guest is New York State Senator David Carlucci. Welcome, Senator Carlucci.
Thanks for having me.
And Senator, first and foremost, congratulations on your recent re-election to the New York State Senate.
Thank you.
And we look forward to another successful partnership in this legislative session. I want to thank you personally for working closely with me and with the town of Clarkstown throughout these many years. First as town clerk, but importantly now as New York State Senator.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to a great session. I think it's going to be really productive. A lot of new members. Probably a historic year. We've got 17 new members in the state Senate, and I think that'll be good. People with energy, ideas, and look forward to working with you in the town to make sure we get Clarkstown's priorities across the finish line and signed into law when needed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've been so helpful in so many things. I mean, you brought funding here to help us with the Traphagen property, which I'm happy to say is actually going out to bid. We're out to bid now as this show is airing. And we expect construction to start by January, and we expect that historic property to be fully renovated, by the end of the summer. So we're really excited about that, and you've helped us with a lot of other funding issues, the police department roof, as well as some of our roadway resurfacing. So you've been very helpful to us throughout my tenure as supervisor, and we really value your help up in Albany. So, Senator, maybe you could just briefly, for the benefit of our viewers who may not know you all that well, speak to how you kind of got involved, a little bit about your background, how you kind of got involved in public service.
Oh, well, let's see. I first ran for town clerk in 2003. I lost that race, but learned a lot, and ran again in 2005 and got elected, skin of my teeth. But learned a lot in that process, and my idea was always, hey, how can I deliver better results for the people of Clarkstown? And that was my drive and my vision, and I think we accomplished that to a good degree. And then when the opportunity came up 5 years later in 2010, I ran for the New York State Senate. Very similar situation where a lot of people said, hey, what are you, crazy? A town clerk running for state Senate? And I said, well, who better? The clerk is the hub of local government, gets to see people every day, good times, bad times. In the Senate, you really only see them in the bad times, which is unfortunate. But I say, and probably similar to supervisor, people don't usually come in and make an appointment when things are going great.
Right. Happy people don't typically go to town board biddings or to
But that's our job. We take that advice. We take that situation. I used to get it in the clerk's office. Now I get it in the Senate more direct in terms of, hey, something happened. Somebody fell through the cracks. This shouldn't have happened. What can we do about it? So I take that role extremely seriously, and I always say, hey, now in the Senate, it's my job to bring the issues to the table from the people of my district and make sure that they're represented in Albany. And I think now more than ever, we're in a complex world that our state needs to step up and make sure that we're protecting residents on all different levels. And I know we together, we teamed up and we did a naloxone training right upstairs here in the town hall. And recently, I saw this happening over the past couple of years, but recently there was a report, 60 Minutes did it just this past week, where they showed that these manufacturers were price gouging naloxone. And when you look at, we saw with EpiPens, when you look at New York state law, it's very difficult to bring a price gouging case forward unless it's dealing with a natural disaster or some sort of emergency. Absent of that, it's very difficult to bring forth a successful price gouging case. So I've drafted legislation that would give the Attorney General really the teeth, the tools, that if it looks like price gouging, smells like price gouging, and it's dealing with pharmaceutical products, that we'd be able to bring a case forward. I think that's going to be very important right now and in years to come as we become so dependent on prescription drugs as just to live a quality of life, but also our tax dollars. And so there's a lot that we can do there, and this is just, I think, the tip of the iceberg in terms of how we can protect consumers against escalating prescription costs.
So, and again, I think I mentioned earlier, but again, congratulations on your re-election here in your district. For the benefit of our viewers, just talk a little bit about your district. I mean, what areas do you cover? Because I know folks here in Clarkstown know you as the former town clerk and as our state senator, so it's really your home and where you were born and raised. But But your senatorial district covers a lot more space than
Yeah,
Clarkstown.
it's parts of Rockland and parts of Westchester, most of Rockland County. I represent Clarkstown, Ramapo, Orangetown, and then across the river in Westchester, I have the town of Ossining. So it's really just 4 towns, so that makes it easy. When talking to lawmakers in upstate New York, I mean, they've got like 50, 60 towns, these big swaths of area. So it's condensed. I have an office in New City right here at 20 South Main Street. We have an office at 2 Church Street in Ossining. And I find that's really important. I mean, it's made me have to really make sure that with our new bridge, that the Tappan Zee Bridge, that we make it as affordable as possible. We've seen these cases, and you probably even got calls in the supervisor's office about the tolls by mail, about what a disaster it's been. They're now, Easy Pass is now making more money through the tolls on mail on fines than they are on actual fare. That's wrong. And I wrote the Toll Payer Protection Act. We passed it in the Senate. It's passed the Assembly. We're waiting for the governor to sign that. But there's so much that we have to do to make sure that we have this beautiful bridge, but that we can afford to cross it. That's got to be the top priority.
And I'm so happy to hear you. I still refer to it as the Tappan Zee Bridge whenever I speak to groups. I mean, I know folks over here, nothing against former Governor Mario Cuomo. Wonderful governor, but you know, the history and the heritage of this whole region, you know, with the Tappan Zee and how that harkens back to the Dutch and Henry Hudson, it just, in my mind, just doesn't seem to make sense. But that's a different story, and I know that you've had some efforts in that regard as well. You know, Senator, it was a historic election this past November, with so many new lawmakers that are now going up to Albany. So, what are you most looking forward to going, you know, back to Albany now for? What is this, about your 9th year?
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I just got elected my 5th term.
Right. So your 5th term, you know, your ninth, going back up for your 9th year, and of service, you know, to the people in New York State and to, you know, the people in your senatorial district. What are you most looking forward to? And do you have any, you know, can you kind of set the stage for our viewers as to what we might, you know, expect to see in the coming legislative session out of Albany? It's a sea change now with a lot of new lawmakers and a new party in the majority.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of issues, things that have just been pent up over the years, now that the Democrats have control of the Senate, that you'll start to see legislation pass. Some of the things I think that'll be quickly done will be the Child Victims Act. That's giving recourse to victims of sexual assault. That's extremely important. It's been pent up for some time. I think we have enough votes now to get that passed. We have the Reproductive Health Act, and that codifies Roe v. Wade into state law. That's something I think that you'll see will pass quickly. You have moving forward on recreational marijuana to make sure that we have a policy that works. I talk about that because I think that's important. It's something that we've swept under the rug for a long time, but we're moving into this area where we have the decriminalization of marijuana. And I think the only way that you can do that appropriately is to regulate it as well, to make sure that there's not a black market element, to make sure that it's being regulated appropriately, that people are getting what they're allegedly buying. So that's something that's extremely important. How do we do it? That's the big question. There are states that have now done it. Massachusetts today is their first day for selling recreational marijuana. Canada has allowed it. New Jersey said they're going to do it. So I say we have to get real, and it is a controversial thing, but I think we have to meet that controversy head on to get the policy right. Because we could pretend that people are not going to get access to marijuana. They're either going to buy it on the black market, or they're going to go to New Jersey and get it and then come across the border, and we miss all of the benefit in regards to having it regulated, getting rid of that black market component, and also focusing in on the most important part, and that's addiction. That we make sure, like any other type of addictive product, that we get people the help that they need. And I'm hopeful that revenues that are generated from that go into fighting the addiction crisis that we have with all types of things, but particularly when we talk about the opioid crisis. And we have to find ways to meet that head on. So decriminalization alone, I don't think is going to solve a problem. I think we need to regulate this. So those are some of the things I think you'll be seeing. That will be what people will be talking about, probably in the news the most. There's going to be a lot of other issues that won't get coverage, but are equally as important. The issues that we talk about, often don't get covered by the media, but are very important to our taxpayers. Whether you're talking about homestead, non-homestead, the shift. issues like that
Right.
are tougher to explain in a soundbite, but are very important to the
Well,
taxpayers.
the legislation that both you and Assemblyman Zabrowski were able to shepherd through for us through both houses the last 2 years has just been incredibly important, because it leveled out the shift between the business class, the non-homestead, and the residential, the homestead class, and that shift between homestead, non-homestead. Instead of having these huge shifts and swings that ends up penalizing one group of taxpayers and helps out another, to have the shift be no greater than 1%. That legislation that you were able to get through, along with Assemblyman Zabrowski, that the governor signed, it really helped the Clarkstown, in particular the Clarkstown residents in the Clarkstown Central School District. Otherwise, you would have seen, even with a pretty low tax increase in the school district, if the shift, if that legislation had not been in place, the residential homeowners in Clarkstown would have been paying about 9% in school tax increases, even though they were under the tax cap. So, I would hope someday that there's something that could be done in terms of simplifying that state formula. I think there's about 41 criteria that go into what determines, which direction the shift goes, and sometimes it just doesn't seem to follow, which way it's going. It's fairly complicated, but again, something very practical like that piece of legislation that you were able to pass. Ramapo availed themselves to it. Orangetown did as well, and residents in all three towns, with school districts that were wholly contained within the school districts, were able to benefit. So we certainly thank you for that. Well, Senator, I think we're pretty much out of time, but maybe you could just offer your contact information for any the residents who want to reach out to you, and again, I want to thank you for your diligent efforts up in Albany on behalf of Clarkstown residents.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for allowing me to come on the show, and encourage anybody that has a question, a problem, give me a call, stop by our office. It's right at 20 South Main Street in New City. Our phone number is 845-623-3627. You can find it easily online, and look forward to working with you and the residents. And that's where the ideas come from. When people have a problem, a question, I encourage them to come see me, and we try to figure it out and see what can we do to help you and then help the bigger situation.
Right. Again, Senator, thank you so much, and we really appreciate your friendship and your support, and certainly all the work that you're doing to help all the residents of Clarkstown and the residents of your district. Thank you again.
Great, thanks.